The car was a beast of flame, roaring against the night, its metal skeleton buckling under the heat. Caleb Morrow's arms burned as he dragged the woman from the driver's seat, her limp form heavy against his chest. Sparks showered his face, stinging like angry wasps. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open, hollow, lost, like a ghost staring through him. Her trembling hand lifted, revealing his name, Caleb, scratched in shaky ink across her wrist. His heart lurched. A crash echoed from the wreckage. A scorched photograph fluttered to the ground, showing two figures, one face smeared into oblivion. Who was she? Why his name? The flames roared louder, swallowing answers. But before we continue, let me take you back to how it all began. The fire station's alarm screeched, ripping Caleb Morrow from a half-dream of smoke and screams. He was already moving, boots hitting the floor before his mind caught up, the weight of his gear familiar as a second skin. The call was urgent. A car crash on Route 17. Flames reported, one occupant trapped. Caleb's pulse thrummed, not from fear, but from something deeper, a gnawing hunger to outrun the ghost of his last failure. 2 years ago, he'd hesitated, and a family paid the price. Never again. Outside, the small town of Havenwood, Virginia, glittered under a late autumn moon, its main street lined with pumpkins and faded American flags. The fire truck's siren wailed as Caleb gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. His partner, Jimmy, a wiry rookie with a nervous grin, rattled off details. Single vehicle, overturned, fire spreading fast. Caleb's jaw tightened. He didn't need details. He needed to act. The crash site was chaos. The car, a battered sedan, lay on its side in a ditch, flames licking its underbelly like a predator savoring prey. Smoke curled into the starry sky, thick with the stench of burning rubber. Caleb's boots crunched on gravel as he sprinted forward, axe in hand. "Stay back," he barked at the gathering crowd. Locals in pajamas, faces pale with shock. His eyes locked on the car. A shadow moved inside. He didn't think. He acted. The driver's door was jammed, the window spiderwebbed with cracks. Caleb swung the axe, glass shattering like a scream. Heat blasted his face, but he reached in, fingers finding a woman's arm, slick with sweat or blood. He couldn't tell. Her body was slumped, her face obscured by tangled auburn hair. He pulled, muscles straining, until she was free, her weight collapsing against him. He staggered back, laying her on the grass as Jimmy doused the car with foam. She was alive. Her chest rose faintly, her face pale but unburned, framed by hair that caught the firelight like copper. Mid-30s, maybe, with sharp cheekbones and a faint scar above her brow. Her jacket was torn, one sleeve stained dark. Caleb's breath caught as her hand twitched, revealing his name, Caleb, scrawled on her wrist in smudged ink. His stomach twisted. He didn't know her. Did he? "Ma'am, can you hear me?" His voice was steady, but his mind raced. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. The crowd murmured, their voices a dull buzz. Jimmy knelt beside him, wide-eyed. "You know her, Morrow?" "No," Caleb snapped, too quickly. His pride flared, a familiar shield. He was Havenwood's hero, the firefighter who never flinched. Admitting confusion wasn't an option, but the name on her wrist gnawed at him, a puzzle he couldn't place. He scanned her for clues, a necklace, a ring, finding nothing but a crumpled photograph in her pocket, half-burned. Two figures stood in it, one face erased by a smear of ash. The other was too charred to make out. His fingers lingered on it, a chill creeping up his spine. The ambulance arrived, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Paramedics swarmed, but Caleb lingered, watching as they strapped her to a stretcher. Her eyes opened briefly, wild and unfocused, locking onto his. "Don't let him," she rasped, voice barely a whisper. Then she was gone, whisked into the ambulance, leaving Caleb with her words and the weight of his name on her skin. Back at the station, the air was thick with coffee and tension. Caleb sat alone, the photograph on the table before him, its edges curling like a dying leaf. His reflection stared back from the station's window, rugged jaw, tired blue eyes, a man who carried too much. He was 38, single, a firefighter who traded dreams of family for a town that leaned on him. Havenwood loved him, but love was a heavy thing. His mistake 2 years ago, a split-second hesitation during a house fire, had cost lives. He'd buried the guilt, but it lingered, a shadow that whispered he wasn't enough. Jimmy burst in, holding a police scanner. Hospital just called. She's awake, but weird thing. She doesn't know her name. Amnesia, they think. Caleb's head snapped up. Amnesia? His name on her wrist wasn't random. She knew him, somehow. His pride bristled. She was his responsibility now, whether he liked it or not. I'm going, he said, grabbing a jacket. The hospital was a sterile maze of white walls and beeping machines. Havenwood General was small, its staff stretched thin, but the night nurse recognized Caleb immediately. Room 204, she said, her smile warm. You're a hero, you know. He shrugged it off, hating the word. Heroes didn't fail. The woman lay in bed, her face pale against the pillow, eyes staring at the ceiling. A bandage covered her forehead, and an force snaked into her arm. Caleb hesitated at the door, his heart thumping. Ma'am, he said softly. Her head turned, and those eyes, green, sharp, haunted, met his. She didn't speak, but her fingers clutched the blanket, knuckles white. I'm Caleb Morrow, he said, stepping closer. I pulled you from the car. No reaction. He tried again. Your wrist, my name was on it. Do you know why? Her gaze flickered to her arm, then back to him. I don't remember, she whispered, her voice fragile, but laced with something. Fear? Guilt? His pride surged, whispering she was hiding something. You said, don't let him. Who's him? He pressed, his tone sharper than intended. Her face crumpled, a tear slipping down her cheek. I don't know, she cried, voice breaking. Caleb's chest tightened. He'd pushed too hard, his need for answers blinding him to her fragility. His flaw, pride, the need to control, had tripped him up again. He softened, sitting beside her. I'm sorry. Let's start over. What do you remember? She shook her head, but her eyes lingered on his face, searching. Your name, it felt safe. Her words hit him like a punch. Safe. He hadn't felt safe in years. Before he could respond, the nurse burst in. She's got a visitor. Says he's family. Caleb frowned. Family? She didn't even know her own name. A man entered, tall, broad-shouldered, in a deputy's uniform. Deputy Holt, Havenwood's golden boy, with a smile too perfect for Caleb's liking. Heard you save someone, Morrow, Holt said, his voice smooth. This her? His eyes lingered on the woman, and Caleb caught a flicker, something cold, calculating. The woman stiffened, her breath hitching. Instinct screamed at Caleb. Something was wrong. She doesn't remember much, Caleb said, standing between them. Holt's smile didn't waver, but his hand rested on his holster, casual yet deliberate. Well, we'll take care of her, Holt said. Right, miss? She didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the floor. Caleb's gut churned. He didn't trust Holt. Not with that look, not with her fear. I'll check on her tomorrow, Caleb said, his voice firm. Holt nodded, but as Caleb left, he glanced back. Holt was leaning over her, whispering something, her face pale as death. Caleb's hand clenched into a fist. He'd made a mistake, leaving her alone. Pride had blinded him, and now she was scared. The next morning, Havenwood buzzed with its annual harvest fair, a tradition of hayrides, pie contests, and community pride. Caleb walked through the crowd, the scent of apple cider and wood smoke grounding him. Families laughed, children darted between booths, and a banner proclaimed, Havenwood, stronger together. It was the town's heart, a reminder of what Caleb fought for. But his mind was elsewhere, on her, on Holt, on the photograph still in his pocket. His phone rang. It was Jimmy, voice frantic. Caleb, she's gone. Left the hospital last night. Nobody saw her go. Caleb froze, the fair's noise fading. Gone? His name on her wrist, her fear of Holt, the erased face in the photo. It all pointed to something bigger, something dangerous. His pride had cost him. He'd misjudged her, pushed her away, and now she was out there alone. He sprinted to his truck, the photograph burning a hole in his pocket. Who was she running from? And why did his name feel like the key to everything? The fairgrounds lights blurred past Caleb Morrow's truck as he sped toward Havenwood General, his heart pounding like a war drum. Jimmy's words echoed. She's gone. Left the hospital last night. The woman, her haunted green eyes, his name scrawled on her wrist, the scorched photograph, had vanished, and Caleb's gut screamed he'd failed her. His pride, that iron wall he'd built to shield his doubts, had blinded him. He'd pushed her too hard in that hospital room, and now she was out there, running from something or someone. Deputy Holt's cold stare flashed in his mind, and Caleb's grip tightened on the wheel. He wouldn't let her slip away again. The hospital loomed ahead, its brick facade stark against the gray morning. Caleb parked crookedly, boots hitting the pavement before the engine died. Inside, the lobby buzzed with nurses and visitors, the air sharp with antiseptic. Jimmy waited by the reception desk, his rookie jitters replaced by a grim frown. Nobody saw her leave, he said, handing Caleb a crumpled visitor log. But Holt was here till midnight. Signed out right after you left. Caleb's jaw clenched. Holt. The deputy's smooth charm had always grated, but last night's whisper to the woman, her face pale as death, felt like a warning. She was scared of him, Caleb said, voice low. I should have stayed. Jimmy raised an eyebrow. You think Holt's involved? Caleb didn't answer. He didn't have proof, only a firefighter's instinct honed by years of reading danger in smoke and flame. The nurse from last night, Ellen, approached, her face etched with worry. She left her jacket behind, she said, holding out a torn denim bundle. Found it in the bathroom. Thought you'd want it. Caleb took it, the fabric heavy with the scent of smoke. He checked the pockets, empty, except for a folded napkin with a single word. Mill. His pulse quickened. Havenwood's old textile mill, abandoned for decades, sat on the town's edge, a rotting husk swallowed by kudzu. Was she there? Hiding? Running? I'm checking the mill, Caleb said, already moving. Jimmy grabbed his arm. Alone? If Holt's trouble, you need backup. Caleb shook him off, pride flaring. I've got this. Another mistake, he'd realize later, but in that moment, he was Havenwood's hero, untouchable. He climbed into his truck, the napkin crumpled in his fist, and gunned it toward the mill. The road to the mill wound through dense pine forest, the air thick with damp earth and decay. Havenwood's outskirts felt like another world. No fairground cheer, no community banners, just silence and shadows. Caleb's mind churned. Who is she? Why his name? The photograph, with its erased face, burned in his pocket. He'd studied it last night, tracing the smudged figure, wondering if it was her or someone she feared. Her words, "Don't let him," haunted him. Holt? Someone else? His failure to stay last night gnawed at him. A crack in his armor he couldn't ignore. The mill appeared through the trees, a crumbling giant of brick and rusted steel. Its windows gaped like empty eyes, and the river beside it churned, swollen from recent rain. Caleb parked 100 yards out, scanning for movement. Nothing, just the wind whistling through broken glass. He grabbed a flashlight from his glove box, its weight grounding him, and stepped into the mill's shadow. Inside, the air was cold, thick with mold and dust. Beams of gray light pierced the roof, illuminating piles of warped machinery and scattered debris. Caleb's boots echoed on the concrete, each step deliberate. "Hello," he called, voice sharp. No answer. He moved deeper, flashlight sweeping the darkness, his breath visible in the chill. A faint scrape echoed from the far end. A footstep? His heart kicked up. "I'm here to help," he said, softer now, hoping she'd hear the truth in it. A shadow darted behind a rusted loom. Caleb froze, beam locking onto the spot. "Show yourself," he barked, his firefighter's calm fraying. A figure stepped into the light. Her. The woman from the car, her auburn hair tangled, her face smudged with dirt. She wore a hospital gown under a stolen coat, her eyes wide with fear. "You," she whispered, voice trembling. "You came." Relief flooded Caleb, but her fear kept him on edge. "Why'd you run?" he asked, stepping closer. She flinched, backing into the loom. "I had to," she said, eyes darting to the shadows. "He'll find me." Caleb's stomach twisted. "Holt!" Her silence was answer enough. He softened his tone. I'm Caleb. You're safe now. What's your name? She hesitated, her fingers twisting the coat's hem. Claire, she said finally, as if testing the word. I think. Amnesia, the hospital had said, but her eyes held secrets she couldn't name. Caleb's pride whispered she was hiding something, but he pushed it down. Claire, why's my name on your wrist? He asked, gentle but firm. Her gaze dropped to her arm, where the ink was smudged but legible. I don't know. It was there when I woke up, like a lifeline. Her voice cracked, and Caleb's chest tightened. She was vulnerable, lost, and he'd failed her once already. What about the photo? He pressed, pulling it from his pocket. Her eyes widened, a flicker of recognition or fear. I don't remember, she said, too quickly. His pride flared again. Was she lying? Before he could push, a low creak echoed from the mill's entrance. Claire gasped, grabbing his arm. He's here, she whispered, her nails digging into his skin. Caleb's flashlight swept the darkness, landing on a figure. Holt, his deputy's badge glinting, a pistol in hand. Morrow, Holt called, voice smooth as oil. Didn't expect you here. Caleb stepped in front of Claire, shielding her. What do you want, Holt? His mind raced. Holt's presence wasn't a coincidence. The deputy's smile was a blade, sharp and cold. Just checking on our runaway, Holt said, nodding at Claire. She's in danger, you know. Bad people after her. Claire's breath hitched, and Caleb felt her tremble. She's safe with me, he said, voice steady despite the gun. Holt's eyes narrowed, his hand tightening on the pistol. You don't know what you're in, Morrow. Walk away. Caleb's pride roared. No one told him to stand down. Not happening, he said, stepping forward. Holt raised a gun, and Claire screamed. No. The sound shattered Caleb's focus, and in that split second, Holt lunged, slamming the pistols but into Caleb's temple. Pain exploded, and Caleb hit the floor, vision swimming. Claire's cry echoed as Holt grabbed her, dragging her toward the exit. Caleb's pride had betrayed him again. His need to confront Holt had left him vulnerable. He crawled to his knees, blood trickling down his face, and saw Claire's coat on the ground. A glint caught his eye, a key, fallen from her pocket, etched with a tiny symbol, a tree. Havenwood's old land registry used that symbol. A clue, finally. He staggered to his feet, head throbbing, and stumbled after them. Outside, Holt's cruiser was gone, tire tracks fresh in the mud. Claire was with him, and Caleb had no idea where. His mistake, charging in alone, ignoring Jimmy's warning, had cost him. But Claire's courage, her scream to save him, sparked something new. He wasn't just Havenwood's hero anymore. He was her lifeline, and he'd fight to prove it. Back in town, Caleb stopped at the fire station, head still pounding. Jimmy patched him up, his silence louder than any lecture. You need the sheriff? Jimmy said finally. Caleb shook his head. Holt was the sheriff's golden boy. No help there. Instead, he drove to the library, where Havenwood's land records were stored. The Keys tree symbol was a lead, and he wouldn't ignore it. The library was quiet, its wooden shelves heavy with history. Miss Evelyn, the librarian and a town matriarch, greeted him with a warm smile. You look like trouble, Caleb Morrow. He forced a grin, his humorous shield. Just chasing ghosts, Miss E. She led him to the records, where he found the tree symbol tied to a plot near the mill, a deed in the name of Claire Ellison, dated 10 years ago. Claire. Is Claire? The plot was tied to a land deal, one Holt's family had brokered. A twist clicked into place. Holt wasn't just after Claire. He was hiding something bigger. Caleb's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Mill. Midnight. Come alone. His blood ran cold. Claire? Holt? A trap? He stared at the key, its weight of promise. He denied his mistake too long, charging in blindly, trusting his pride. Now, he'd be smarter. He'd save her. That evening, Havenwood's community gathered for the Harvest Fair's bonfire, a tradition of storytelling and warmth. Families huddled under blankets, faces glowing in the firelight, their laughter a reminder of what Caleb fought for. He stood at the edge, the key in his pocket, Claire's face in his mind. He wasn't alone anymore. He'd fix this, for her, for Havenwood. The bonfire's glow faded behind Caleb Morrow as he drove into the night, the mill's silhouette looming in his mind like a storm cloud. The text mill, midnight, come alone, burned in his pocket, a dare he couldn't ignore. His temple throbbed from Holt's blow, a reminder of his pride's cost. He'd charged into the mill alone, underestimated Holt, and lost Claire. But her scream to save him, her trembling hand clutching his arm, had cracked something open inside him. She wasn't just a mystery. She was his chance to be more than Havenwood's flawed hero. The key with its tree symbol, tied to Claire's name and a shady land deal, was his only lead. He gripped the wheel, the road to the mill swallowed by darkness. This time, he'd be smarter. This time, he'd save her. The mill's skeletal frame rose against the moonlit sky, its rusted beams clawing at the stars. Caleb parked a half-mile out, cutting the engine to avoid notice. The river's churn filled the silence, its current fierce from recent rains. He checked his phone, 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes to midnight. His flashlight beam danced across the ground as he crept toward the mill, the key heavy in his pocket. Claire's face, pale, haunted, her green eyes searching his, drove him forward. He'd failed her twice, pushing her too hard at the hospital, then charging him blindly. No more mistakes. His pride, that stubborn shield, had crumbled. Now, he fought for her, not himself. Inside, the mill was a maze of shadows, the air thick with damp rot. Caleb's boots were silent on the concrete, his breath shallow. Moonlight streamed through broken windows, casting jagged patterns on the walls. A faint whimper echoed from the upper floor. Claire! His heart surged, but he forced himself to move slowly, scanning for Holt. The deputy's cold smile, his hand on that pistol, haunted Caleb. Holt wasn't just a corrupt cop. He was tied to the land deal, to Claire's past, to secrets buried in that scorched photograph. He climbed the rusted stairs, each creak a betrayal in the silence. At the top, a faint glow spilled from a doorway. Caleb peered inside and froze. Claire sat on the floor, wrists bound, her hospital gown smeared with dirt. A lantern cast her shadow long and trembling. Beside her, Holt paced, his pistol glinting. A leather journal lay open in Claire's lap, its pages yellowed but legible. Holt's voice was low, venomous. You should have stayed gone, Claire. You and that deed. Caleb's blood ran cold. Deed. The land deal, Claire's name on the registry, Holt's family brokering it. This was the culmination, the truth behind the car crash, her amnesia, his name on her wrist. Holt wanted the land, and Claire was the key. But why Caleb's name? He crouched, heart pounding, and listened. Claire's voice was weak but defiant. I don't remember signing anything. You can't scare me. Holt laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You didn't sign. Your brother did, before he disappeared. Caleb's breath caught. Brother? The photograph. 2 figures, one face erased. Was that her brother? Holt leaned closer, his gun brushing Claire's temple. You found the deed, tried to expose me. That crash was no accident. The words hit Caleb like a fist. Holt had caused the crash, tried to silence Claire. Her amnesia wasn't a fluke. It was Holt's plan, imperfectly executed. Caleb's name on her wrist, her lifeline, must have been her last act before the flames. But how did she know him? His mind raced, piecing it together. 2 years ago, during his failure, the house fire, he'd saved a woman from the wreckage. Was it Claire? Had she carried his name since then? A debt unpaid? He had no time to wonder. Holt's gun pressed harder against Claire's head, and her eyes, wild, desperate, met Caleb's in the shadows. She saw him. Her lips parted, but she didn't scream. Instead, she kicked the lantern, shattering it. Darkness swallowed the room, and Holt cursed, his gun firing blindly. The shot rang in Caleb's ears as he lunged, tackling Holt to the ground. The fight was brutal, a tangle of fists and fury. Holt was stronger, but Caleb was faster, driven by Claire's trembling form in the corner. He slammed Holt's wrist against the floor, the gun skittering away. Holt roared, landing a punch to Caleb's jaw, but Caleb held on, pinning him. It's over, he growled, blood dripping from his lip. Holt's eyes burned with rage, but his body went limp, defeated. Caleb staggered to Claire, cutting her bonds with his pocket knife. She collapsed against him, her breath ragged. "You came," she whispered, echoing their first meeting. Her hands clutched his jacket, and for a moment, the mill's decay faded, leaving only her warmth. "I'm sorry," Caleb said, voice breaking. "I should have trusted you." She shook her head, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face. "You're here now." The journal lay nearby, its pages fluttering in the draft. Caleb grabbed it, flipping through. It was Claire's, filled with notes about the land deal. A plot near the mill, rich with untapped resources that Holt's family had swindled from her brother. He'd forged Claire's signature, then vanished, likely Holt's doing. Claire's memory was patchy, but the journal sparked fragments. "I was investigating," she murmured. "I found you in old articles. The firefighter who saved me." Caleb's heart stopped. 2 years ago, he'd pulled a woman from a burning house, her face obscured by smoke, her name lost in the chaos. Claire. She tracked him down, written his name as her anchor, but Holt's sabotage had stolen her memory. His failure that night, his hesitation, had let her slip away, until now. "I didn't know," he said, guilt choking him. She touched his hand, her fingers steady. "You saved me twice." Holt stirred, groaning, but Caleb wasn't done. He dragged the deputy to his feet, tying his hands with rope from the mill. "You're answering for this," Caleb said, voice iron. Holt's smirk was gone, his eyes hollow. Fear, not greed, had driven him. Fear of losing his family's power, their name. Caleb saw it now, a man broken by his own choices. But pity didn't erase justice. They stumbled out of the mill, Claire leaning on Caleb, Holt staggering ahead. The river roared nearby, a reminder of Havenwood's wild heart. Caleb called Jimmy, who arrived with the sheriff, Holt's boss, but a man of principle. Holt was cuffed, his badge stripped, as Claire recounted what she could. The journal was evidence, her memory the spark. The sheriff nodded, grim. "We'll dig into the land deal." "Holt's done." Dawn broke over Havenwood, painting the town in gold. Caleb and Claire sat outside the fire station, blankets around their shoulders, coffee warming their hands. The Harvest Fair's banners still fluttered on Main Street, a symbol of the community that held them together. Townsfolk stopped by, offering hugs and gratitude, their faces glowing with pride. "You're our hero, Caleb," Miss Evelyn said, her eyes misty. Caleb smiled, but his gaze was on Claire. She was his hero, too. Her memory was returning, piece by piece. She was Claire Ellison, 34, a journalist who'd come to Havenwood to uncover corruption. Her brother's disappearance had driven her, and Holt's greed had nearly destroyed her. But she was resilient, her spirit unbroken. "I'll stay," she said, her voice soft but sure. "This town, it's home now." Caleb's heart swelled. Home. He'd fought for Havenwood, but Claire gave it new meaning. Their connection wasn't simple. Trust came slowly, built on shared scars. Caleb's guilt, his failure 2 years ago, his pride, still lingered, but Claire's forgiveness was a balm. "We both messed up," she said, her smile wry. "But we're here." He laughed, a sound that felt foreign but right. "Guess we're a team now." Her hand brushed his, a spark of something more, love, maybe, or the promise of it. Obstacles remained. Her trauma, his reputation battered by Holt's lies. But they'd faced them together. The resolution wasn't perfect. The land deal's fallout meant legal battles, and Claire's savings were gone, her brother still missing. Caleb's firefighter salary barely covered his own bills, let alone the repairs his truck needed after last night. But Havenwood rallied. Neighbors brought casseroles, the fire station collected donations, and Miss Evelyn organized a fundraiser. Stronger together. The town's motto wasn't just words. It was their truth. Caleb stood, offering Claire his hand. "Let's walk," he said. Main Street was quiet, the fairground empty, but the air carried hope. They passed the station, where Jimmy waved, his grin wide. Claire's steps were steady, her eyes bright with purpose. "I want to ride again," she said. "Tell Havenwood stories." Caleb nodded, pride swelling. Not the old, brittle kind, but something new, rooted in her courage. He'd sacrificed his hero's image, confronting Holt at the cost of whispers and doubts. But Claire's trust, her hand in his, was worth it. Forgiveness, second chances, love, they weren't just themes. They were their story, forged in fire and ash. As they walked, the sun rose higher, Havenwood waking around them. Life wasn't easy, but it was theirs. Subscribe to the channel to see more soul-stirring stories.